I never imagined that my stepson would shatter the quiet of our home on such a dismal night. Rain pounded the windows as I sat alone in the dim living room, overwhelmed by a profound loneliness. With my husband away again, the silence pressed in on me, and every echo of the storm outside deepened the ache in my heart. The night had barely settled when the door creaked open. I froze. No one was meant to be here. Slowly, I turned to see him standing in the doorway, drenched by the rain. His eyes carried a heavy intensity that left me both unsettled and deeply concerned. In that moment, the room, already small under the weight of the storm, felt even more constricted by the presence of a young man whose expression was as troubled as the weather outside. Words failed me when I managed a quiet, "Why are you here?" He did not reply. Instead, his silent approach seemed to communicate a complex message, a mixture of desperation and an unspoken plea for understanding. My hands trembled as I hurried to fetch a towel, each second stretching into an eternity. As I handed it to him, our eyes met, and I sensed an inexplicable burden shared between us, a tension that defied simple explanation. I tried to break the suffocating silence, suggesting that he rest and dry off, yet his gaze remained distant and searching. Every detail, the relentless patter of rain, the intermittent flash of lightning, the groan of old floorboards, echoed the turmoil that raged within me. I was caught between a desire to protect him and an overwhelming fear of what this moment might signify. That night, sleep was a stranger. I lay awake as the memories of our encounter replayed in endless loops. The quiet of the house, once a comforting embrace, now mocked me with each subtle creak and whisper of wind. My thoughts spiraled into a labyrinth of regret and confusion. I chastised myself for having allowed a moment of vulnerability to morph into something that breached the unspoken boundaries of our family life. A sudden series of soft footsteps in the hallway jolted me from my reverie. I moved cautiously toward the door, my heart pounding in my chest as I tried to make sense of the conflicting emotions surging inside me. Opening the door revealed only a faint glow from his room, a fragile light that seemed to plead for some resolution even as it reminded me of how much had been left unsaid. Later, when we found ourselves alone in the cool, quiet air of the back porch, I could no longer ignore the gravity of what had transpired. I pleaded with him, urging him to allow this moment to pass into silence before it could cause further harm. His eyes, deep and pensive, met mine with a mix of sorrow and determination that spoke of inner battles I could barely comprehend. In that charged silence, the truth hung between us, a truth that promised to reshape everything if left unaddressed. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway shattered the fragile stillness. My heart lurched as I realized that normalcy was crashing back in. My husband's familiar voice, filled with casual cheer, contrasted painfully with the storm of emotions that now roiled inside me. In that split second, the weight of our unspoken secret became unbearably clear. The aftermath. In the days that followed, our home was cloaked in an unspoken tension. Every exchanged glance, every silent moment shared in the same space, reminded me of that fateful night. My husband carried on with his routines, oblivious to the hidden struggle that threatened to unravel the very fabric of our lives. I, on the other hand, was left alone with a guilt that felt as relentless as the storm. Each day became a battle between the urge to erase that night from memory and the inescapable reality that it had changed everything. I tried to maintain distance, to restore order and normalcy, but the memory of that heavy, rainy evening clung to me like a shadow. It was a constant reminder that some boundaries, once crossed, leave behind scars that time cannot heal. A quiet reckoning. One quiet evening, as the storm outside finally subsided, I stood at a crossroads in the silence of our home. The secret that had taken root was now a burden too heavy to bear. I realized that what had occurred could not simply be erased by time or routine, it demanded acknowledgement and the painful process of seeking redemption. Though I longed for a future where the past might be forgiven, I understood that the emotional consequences of that night would forever shape our lives. The memory of that stormy night remains etched in my heart, a testament to how a single moment of vulnerability can upend a life, leaving behind a trail of regret and irreversible change. Even as I stepped into an uncertain future, the echoes of that night continued to resonate, reminding me that the choices we make in moments of isolation can cast long shadows over our tomorrows. In this revised account, the intensity of our encounter and the burden of unspoken regret are laid bare without explicit references to any physical intimacy. The storm outside mirrors the inner turmoil that has forever altered our lives, a sorrowful reminder of the fragile boundaries we sometimes unwittingly cross.